Good evening everyone, my name is Councillor Debbie Arnott and I'm the Mayor at Warrnambool City Council and I will be chairing tonight's council meeting. I'd like to formally welcome everyone here this evening and those watching at home. This council meeting will be live streamed to allow for public viewing and transparency, and if any technical problems interrupt the live stream during this meeting, the meeting will be adjourned until the issues are rectified. This additional council meeting will be conducted in accordance with council's governance rules, and any interruptions to the meeting or actions not in line with behaviour expectations will be dealt with in accordance with these rules. I'll just introduce the councillors. To my left I have Councillor Angie Paspaliaris, Councillor Max Taylor, Councillor Ben Blaine. On live stream we have Councillor Vicky Jelly, we've got Councillor Ota Akoish and Councillor Richard Ziegler. I'll ask the councillors to stand for the opening prayer and acknowledgement of traditional owners. We'll now proceed to the items of the agenda, commencing with the opening prayer and an acknowledgement of the traditional owners. Almighty God, grant to this council wisdom, understanding and sincerity of purpose for the good governance of this city. Amen. I wish to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we stand and pay my respects to their elders past and present. Thank you. Are there any apologies tonight? No, thank you. Are there any declarations of conflict of interest this evening? No, thank you. Councillors, we're now moving to the officers' reports section of the agenda. Section 4.1, the Council Plan 2021-2025, which is a 2023 revision. Agenda page number 5. This report presents the Council Plan 2021 to 2025, which is the 2023 revision to Council, and includes a recommendation that the Council Plan be adopted. Councillors, are there any questions on this item before I seek a motion? Councillors, do I have a motion? Councillor Blaine, what is your motion?
I'd like to move that Council, pursuant to Section 90 of the Local Government Act 2020, adopt the Council Plan 2021 to 2025 revision and make a copy of the plan available for public inspection at the Warrnambool Civic Centre, 25 Lilac Street, Warrnambool, and on Council's website, and to fix any spelling mistakes in the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Blaine. Is there a seconder for the motion? Councillor Ziegler, thank you. Councillor Blaine, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Arnott. The Council Plan is, well, it's important. It dictates, the Council Plan's important. It actually shows what Council's planning on achieving for the year. There's some really positive initiatives in there this year with the continuation of the Smart Building program, not only saving costs but also saving the environment with solar panels going on council buildings. It's positive also to see that Council's going to investigate increasing FOGO over the spring in our peak growing seasons in order to be able to better service residents with excessive green waste. Another one which I actually think is really, really exciting is the work that's going to be done on the animal shelter. You know, this is a regional facility and it's good to see that resources have also been allocated for this in the budget. I believe there's a pressing need, not just in Warrnambool, for a standard animal shelter, but across the region. I actually look forward to working with other shires in order to get maximum utilisation and maximum value, not just for Warrnambool, but for the region. One thing in the Council Plan that is a little bit concerning though is in the forward it says that we're steadying the ship, and it's something that, you know, it's been happening over the last 3 years. I think the ship's steady. I believe we need to be planning for the growth of the city and advocating to deliver for Warrnambool. It's key that Council's working in order to be sourcing outside funding, not to be putting extra burden onto its ratepayers. And I think that should be a key, and it should be something that we should remember as the year goes on. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Blown. Councillor Ziegler, would you wish to speak to the council plan?
Just quickly, yes, Mayor, thank you for the opportunity. I was surprised and disappointed that we only received one submission when we asked for submissions from the residents about the council plan. As it happens, that particular submission was had relevance, to the environmental aspects of the council plan. And while the submission pointed out some of the deficits we have in our particular area, subject to historical approaches to environment and our lived environment, it's heartening to see that the council has a more active approach now to improving our grown environment, and so that is in fact a good response to that submission. But again, I was surprised and disappointed that there was only one submission made.
Thank you, Councillor Ziegler. Do any other councillors wish to speak to the motion? Councillor Paspaliaris.
I just wanted to add, with regards to a couple of the objectives, one of which is the review and improve the community engagement policy. I think that in the last 12 or so months there have been some instances where I think that council has some room for improvement with being more effective and looking at the community engagement process. So I'm really keen for that to be looked over and assessed and then sort of reinvigorated. The other thing that I think is also really important is there's development and delivering of an education program supporting the reduction of landfill and a greater understanding of contamination impacts. I think this is super important. I personally think that the reduction of what we place into landfill is really important. So I'm really keen to ensure that there's an education program to support that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Paspaliaris. Is there any other councillors who wish to speak? Councillor Jolie.
Thank you, Mayor. I would agree with my fellow councillors everything they've said. I had a few similar things down. Revisiting this plan this year is very important, as it is every year, so that we can look over various areas within council, community services, infrastructure, all those things. This coming year is very important for us to have a more strategic vision, and that's what this plan we're encouraged to do. We have to work with state and federal governments and other funding bodies to aspire for our future. I absolutely agree with Councillor Liaris about our community engagement process, that needs to be lifted and looked at in a different way, because I think it has failed in various ways over the last 12 months, and I think it's excellent that we are going to really look at that, and we need to make sure that it works much better for the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jolie. Is there any other councillors who wish to speak? Our council plan is a strategic document, and it is there to help guide council throughout the year. And it is, although it is a 4-year plan, it is something that we do need to come back and revisit. I agree with all our councillors on the points they have raised about our council plan, and we do need to make it very, very relevant to the community's wishes. And I think we have to tie it back to our 2040 plan. And the other thing that we need to keep in mind is that our plan supports the vision of the long-term 2040 community plan, and also our vision for Warrnambool, a thriving city at the heart of coast and country. So we just need to keep working really hard on all those things that the councillors have raised. Councillor Blaine, do you wish to speak before we close?
No, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Being no further speakers, I'll now put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. We'll now move on to item 4.2, the Warrnambool City Council 2023-2024 budget, agenda page number 8, Directorate Department Corporate Strategies. This report presents the proposed Warrnambool City Council 2023-24 budget for the adoption by Council. Councillors, are there any questions on this item before I seek a motion? Councillors, do I have a motion? Councillor Paspaliaris, what is your motion?
I would recommend that Council 1 adopts the Warrnambool City Council 2023-24 budget as presented in attachment 1 to this report. 2, approve the council fees and charges for the 2023 financial year as set out in attachment 2 to this report. 3, notes the 11 public submissions were received in relation to the draft 2023-24 budget per attachment 3 to this report. 4, notes the changes to the Warrnambool City Council 2023-24 draft budget. Really started something now. Per attachment 4 to this report. 5, increase the Warrnambool City Council rates hardship rebate to $250 and make the hardship rebate available to ratepayers who qualify for help under Council's hardship provisions. 6, declares the amount of rates and charges to be raised as followed. 7, declares that rates, rating differentials and charges for the period 1 July 2023 to 30th of June 2023 align with Council's revenue and rating plan and will be applied as outlined in section 4.1 of the Warrnambool City Council 23-24 budget per attachment 1. 8, notes that rates and charges must be paid by 4 instalments made on or before the following dates, as per below. 9, requires that any person pays interest on any amounts of rates and charges which, as per points 1, 2 and 3. 10, authorises the Manager Financial Services to levy and recover the rates and charges in accordance with the Local Government Act. 11, that cultural and recreational land be levied in accordance with section 4(1)(3) of the Cultural and Recreational Lands Act 1963. The amounts payable in respect of recreational lands under this Act shall be in accordance with the Warrnambool City Council 2023-24 budget per attachment 1. And 12, that no incentives be offered or declared for early payment of rates or charges. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Paspaliaris. Is there a seconder for this motion? Councillor Jelly, thank you. Councillor Paspaliaris, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Yes, I will. Thank you, Mayor. So the draft budget was formulated and advertised for comment and submission. And a few weeks ago, on the 5th of June, at an open council meeting, we heard in person, I think, the most number of public submissions received that I've been aware of in recent years, which was a pleasant surprise and very welcomed. I commend this council also on not imposing a time limit on speakers at that June meeting, because I really had an opportunity to fully comprehend all of the submissions put forward. Given the submissions received, I believe this councillor group has strongly advocated for a reduction in the rate cap percentage increase. The 2.95% rate cap adjustment is an acknowledgement, I think, that council have to try and tighten their belts as much as the average household. I do think, though, that in this tight economic climate and high inflation environment, not increasing rates at all would be possibly near impossible. This is based on council's existing challenges and future challenges with consumer inflation and construction industry price increases. I think council's aiming to be responsible in declaring no new borrowings budgeted for the coming financial year. I think that the increase from $200 to $250 of the hardship assistance is another genuine gesture to try and be very targeted in terms of assisting people who really need it. So I think there have been some improvements. There's been the, I guess, the reception to the submissions, and I think that council has tried to adjust where it can. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Paspaliaris. Councillor Jelly, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor. Consideration of this year's budget has looked at a plethora of areas right across the council. Each year there are new issues and considerations to fit in financially, socially, and to try and achieve a balanced approach. This year, more than ever, we've had to really look at the cost of living, rising interest rates for many in the community, but to be aware that our entire community has been affected by these issues in one way or other. That is why we collegiately have worked together as a councillor group and made a decision to not take the full rate increase. But it's acknowledgement of understanding of the difficult times we are in. We at City Council also propose to have, financial difficulties as well. So we need to ensure what we are doing fits in with these budgetary items. As we know, costs of infrastructure building, all those sort of things have often risen 30%, and that's been hard for council to have to manage as well. I really would, Councillor Paspaliaris has highlighted that we have looked at the financial hardship rebate and proposed to put that up to $250, and I would really please ask everyone to look at that, because you don't necessarily need a healthcare card or anything like that to apply for this hardship rebate. So I'd encourage people to have a look at that, and we hope to make that a more streamlined process for everyone. There has been a lot to consider. We've celebrated some great things this past year, and we've got a lot more to celebrate and work towards in the coming year. Japan Street drainage upgrade, the proposed West Warrnambool Neighbourhood House at $500,000, which community consultation is currently happening, which I wish had happened prior to putting this out, but that is happening at the moment. So I think there's a lot to consider, and I think we've been quite conservative in what we've done. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jelly. Does any other councillor wish to speak to the motion? Councillor Ziegler.
Yeah. Look, rates of taxes, and people will always dislike and complain about taxes in Australia. It seems to be a hobby. But realistically, the costs of council works have all suffered the pressures of expenses, rising expenses. Council is not immune to those higher prices. But I'm very conscious that residents are currently hurting from mortgage pressure and gas and electricity price rises. Everyone is having to tighten their belts, and that's why I wanted Warrnambool City Council to pull their belt in a few notches as well. Rates are only one source of our income, and everyone knows that the state government has no money at present and is not giving any more money out. So to be realistic, so that we didn't lose any of the important human services that we have to provide, things like Meals on Wheels, for example, we had to raise it a little bit. We've come to a compromise. We haven't gone for the 3.5% rate rise. We've gone for something less than that, and I'm conscious that I hope it helps others. As Councillor Jelly said, I'm pleased to be able to say that there is now an increased hardship provision for people. I've exhorted officers to make the application process so much easier than it has been in past, so it's not quite so daunting for people. You don't have to have a healthcare card to qualify for that. I was surprised last year when very few people actually applied for the hardship, but still were able to complain about the rise in rates. If you're having trouble, please approach the council so that we can see if we can make it easier for you to pay your rates. That's what I've got to say.
Thank you, Councillor Ziegler. Does any other councillor wish to speak to the motion? Councillor Akoish.
Thank you, Mayor. I think this budget came in consideration of the situation that the community and the whole country is going through. As many people are struggling to meet the basic needs. So when the 3.5 was proposed by the Victorian government, it is actually difficult financially for so many, as I said, because then how will a community thrive and become financially or economically strong with these rate rates? And the cost of living is skyrocketing. We don't have enough to give and have services in return. So I think what Honourable City Council done a great job by reducing this rate to 2.59 to meet at least this situation, and also the hardship rebate to be increased by $50. Used to be 200 last year, now is 250. I think is a great thing to give to the community. And I agree with my colleagues here when they said about the conditions that put forward for the hardship rebate. It is not necessary to be healthcare as a condition, because some people who do have healthcare, they also suffering as the other one. So some of them, even they suffer in silence without coming forward to apply. So I agree that that should be amended and should be made easier for everyone to apply. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Akoish. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak to the motion? Councillor Taylor.
Thank you, Mayor Arnott. I'd like to endorse my fellow councillors' comments of adopting the budget at 2.95%, which is lower than the state government rate cap of 3.5% and well below the current inflation rate of 6.8%. Our council is heavily exposed to rising costs in the construction sector, rising by 9.4% in the 12 months up to March 2023, and less funding from other levels of state government. I support the hardship rebate of $250 and like to see as many of the community who are eligible for that rebate to apply for it. And I also support the council to budget for an additional 4 weeks to the outdoor pool season. Thank you, Mayor Arnott.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Is any other councillors wish to speak? Councillor Blaine.
Thank you, Mayor Arnott. This is the first time, I think, since the rate cap environment was brought in by the state government that Warrnambool City Council is going to hopefully adopt a budget that's underneath the state cap. It partially offsets the 2% increase that was applied for previously with the ESC and that was accepted in 2018-19. So it's, it's a first, and I actually think it does, as my fellow councillors have said, it acknowledges what we know, that the Warrnambool community, everyone out there is doing it hard at the moment. And we're trying. It's not perfect and there is still a rise, but, it's better than what we first put out. I would like to point out too, though, that even though the waste fee is still 3.5%, the waste fee's worked out, it's a fee for service. So the cost of the service is what's divided amongst ratepayers. And as Councillor Taylor said, it's good to see that there is an allocation for the outdoor swim season to be extended 4 weeks on the back of the swimming club submission. You know, it's something that we really have listened to. And in last year's budget, there was an allocation for the aquatic strategy, which has just got underway in the last month. So I'm hoping that in the next year we will see that come to fruition. It's exciting that with the state government's $1 million, there's another $1.2 million going into Briley, not only for stage 1, that's the ovals, that's doing all the ovals, but there's also a resource there in order to get the master plan updated and underway so that we can really start advocating and delivering for North Warrnambool. Because growth in North Warrnambool it's still one of our key growth areas in the city, and having services in the neighbourhoods, having meeting rooms, having somewhere for the community to go is going to be critical. One thing I will say about the budget, which is something that I hope that we don't continue to do, is I don't agree with the modest capital works program. We're a growing city, and I think we need to be ambitious, and we need to be able to deliver for the needs of Warrnambool. Cutting back our capital works program works on 2 fronts. It'll slow down our asset renewal, and it'll slow down what our ambitions are for the city. We are, as an organisation, I firmly believe that we will be able to deliver, and it's something that, as we continue to move forward, I think is going to be incredibly important. It's something that I think we really need to be reviewing as the year goes on into our future budgets, because we need to be delivering for Warrnambool. If we don't do it now, we will just fall behind. Thank you.
Thank you, councillors. I really do take on board what everyone has put forward. It is council's role is the responsibility to deliver a sustainable, financially sound budget, while we also deliver and supply the services that our community needs and our community deserves. Council, as everyone has said, is not immune to the financial pressures and challenges out there. It's also a time, you know, where we do recognise the fact that many in our community are doing it very, very tough, facing some hard times. Hence the increase in the hardship rebate, as councils have said, from $200 to $250. I would like to point out that council has absorbed the difference between the inflation rate and what we are proposing to increase the rates at 2.95. And we also have to be mindful of maybe there could be a long-term recurrent cost to council. It could be an issue, but hopefully with some careful planning and efficiencies, this will not be too detrimental in coming years. When making these decisions, our objective is always the community benefit, and I feel this budget is being prudent and responsible. So thank you, councillors. Councillor Paspaliaris, do you wish to speak before closing the debate?
Yes, I will. Thank you, Mayor.
No.
I'd just like to add that, as far as I'm aware, 92% of Victorian councils have or are proposing to raise their rates by the full 3.5% state cap. So Warrnambool City Council is among a small group of councils that has negotiated and will hopefully decide on increasing rates by a smaller amount. On the back of the public submissions received, I feel that council has tried to listen to those submissions and take things on board, and through a difficult negotiation process, I feel that we have gotten to a point that at least I feel comfortable with. I would also add that I would prefer in future perhaps a slightly different timeline for submissions. I feel that council could have probably more time to consider those submissions if they are heard a little bit more early. So I would probably think that that's room for improvement there as part of that process. But otherwise, I'm happy to support the item. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Paspaliaris. I'll now put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. There being no further items of business, I declare the meeting closed at 6:15. Thank you, everyone.